You are standing in a furniture showroom. You sit down on a brand new, modern-looking sofa. It feels firm, supportive, and comfortable. The price tag is surprisingly low. You buy it, load the flat boxes into your car, and spend your Saturday afternoon assembling it. For the first few weeks, it is perfect. But 12 months later, you sit down, and your hips sink directly into the frame. The cushions have sagged into permanent hollows. The left armrest wobbles when you lean on it. The coffee table you bought with it has developed a swollen, blistered ring on its surface from a single wet drinking glass, and its legs squeak every time you set down a book. Cheap furniture rarely breaks all at once. Instead, it slowly stops feeling trustworthy. It loses the tiny, silent details: the stable leg, the flush drawer, the silent door, the supportive cushion, that make an object feel solid. This decay is not an accident. It is the result of physical, chemical, and economic engineering. Every material choice, joint design, and production shortcut is calculated to survive the showroom floor and the first assembly, after which the physics of gravity, moisture, and cyclic load begin to systematically tear the object apart. To understand why our homes are filling up with disposable objects, we first have to look at the psychology of the purchase. In 2012, researchers from Harvard, Yale, and Duke universities published a study detailing what they called the IKEA effect. They discovered that when consumers assemble a product themselves, they value it up to 5 times more than an identical, pre-assembled version. This labor-based love creates a powerful psychological blind spot. We forgive the thin boards and plastic veneers because our own sweat is mixed with the glue. But this emotional investment has a shelf life. It holds together only until the first structural wobble, at which point our affection collapses faster than the particle board itself, and that wobble is engineered into the very cellular structure of the cushions you sit on. The longevity of a sofa cushion depends on the density of its polyurethane foam, which is measured in pounds per cubic foot. Cheap furniture uses low-density foam, usually around 1.2 to 1.5 pounds. Under the weight and heat of your body, the thin walls of the air cells inside this cheap foam quickly rupture and collapse, causing the cushion to lose its springiness within months. To hide this cheapness in the showroom, chemical manufacturers use a clever trick. They add calcium carbonate, commonly known as chalk or clay, to the liquid polyurethane mix during production. This clay filler increases the physical weight of the foam and makes it feel firm to the touch in the store, mimicking high-density foam. But once you bring the sofa home, the clay filler acts as a stress concentrator. As you sit and stand, the rigid clay particles physically grind against the flexible polymer cell walls, accelerating their destruction. You are sitting on a cushion that is literally grinding itself into dust from the inside out. Underneath the collapsing foam lies the structural frame, which is where the physics of the flat pack design becomes a liability. To make shipping cheap, modern fast furniture is optimized to fit inside flat containers. Freight costs are calculated by volume, so shipping 3-dimensional furniture is economically unviable. This means the furniture must be shipped as flat panels and assembled using tension joints, most commonly wood dowels and metal cam lock fasteners. But these joints are being anchored into particle board, a material made of wood shavings, sawdust, and synthetic resin pressed together. Unlike solid wood, which has a continuous grain of interlocking cellulose fibers, particle board has no grain structure. It has very low shear strength. When you assemble the table for the first time, the metal screws compress the surrounding wood fibers. But if you drag the table across the room or disassemble it to move to a new apartment, lateral forces act on the wooden dowels. The hard dowel chews through the soft, crumbly particle board, widening the hole. This creates a micro-wobble. In physics, a micro-wobble is a self-reinforcing feedback loop. A tiny amount of play in a joint increases the dynamic load on that joint every time you touch it. The tiny wiggle creates a larger impact force, which breaks down more particle board, widening the hole further until the table shakes permanently. Because particle board cannot hold a screw in a crushed hole a second time, the joint is effectively single-use. This structural weakness is further exposed by the physics of gravity. If you place a heavy row of books on a cheap shelf, the shelf will slowly bend. This long-term deformation under a constant load is known in materials science as plastic creep. The elastic modulus, the measurement of stiffness of particle board, is up to 5 times lower than that of solid wood. In solid wood, the natural fibers resist long-term stretching. In particle board, the synthetic urea formaldehyde glue that holds the wood shavings together slowly slips under tension, allowing the wood particles to slide past one another. If you remove books from a solid pine shelf, the wood springs back to its original flat shape. But a particle board shelf undergoes permanent plastic deformation. It remains sagged forever, a curved monument to cheap engineering. Sometimes, the furniture is even less solid than pre-pressed sawdust. It is hollow. Many cheap desks and tables utilize a sandwich structure, 2 paper-thin layers of high-density fiberboard on the outside, with a core made of recycled cardboard folded into a honeycomb pattern. This structure, which shares its core engineering with the lightweight sandwich panels used in aerospace design, is incredibly efficient, providing high vertical strength while keeping the table light enough to lift with one hand. But it has 0 puncture resistance. If you accidentally kick the leg of the table or drop a heavy coffee mug, the thin outer fiberboard punctures instantly, exposing the hollow cardboard cells within. It is a paper box dressed up as a desk. To make these paper and pulp panels look like real wood, manufacturers use melamine foil or paper foil. This is not a thin slice of wood veneer. It is a high-resolution photograph of wood grain printed onto paper, saturated with plastic resin, and glued onto the particle board. It is often less than 0.2 millimeters thick. If you leave a sweating glass of water on this surface, the moisture eventually penetrates the seams where the plastic edge band meets the top foil. Once water reaches the underlying particle board, the pressed sawdust acts like a dry sponge. The fibers absorb the water and swell, sometimes up to double or triple their original thickness. Because this swelling is a physical disruption of the glued fibers, it is completely irreversible. The wood shavings expand, pushing the paper foil upward, leaving you with a blistered, peeling surface that cannot be sanded down, planed, or repaired. Traditional furniture makers used the dovetail joint, an interlocking puzzle of wedge-shaped fingers that mechanically prevents a drawer front from pulling off, even without glue. Cheap furniture replaces this geometry with staples, glue, and thin plywood. As you pull a heavy drawer open day after day, the twisting force slowly pulls the metal staples out of the soft plywood. The drawer front eventually detaches, leaving the staples sticking out like teeth. Even the air in your room is affected by these material choices. The urea formaldehyde resin used to bind particle board is cheap and cures quickly in factories. But over time, especially in warm and humid conditions, the glue undergoes hydrolysis. It breaks down and slowly releases formaldehyde gas into your home. This process, known as off-gassing, can continue for up to 2 years after purchase. The new furniture smell that many people associate with cleanliness is actually a toxic, volatile, organic compound that can irritate your eyes, nose, and throat. In the United States, this off-gassing is so severe that it is legally regulated under Title VI of the Toxic Substances Control Act, requiring manufacturers to test and certify their wood panels to prevent indoor air pollution. This disposable engineering has created a massive environmental crisis. Environmental journalists have coined the term fast furniture to describe this short-cycle consumption. In the United States alone, consumers throw away over 12 million tons of furniture every year, a 450% increase since 1960. And unlike solid wood, which can be biodegraded or burned safely, this composite furniture is nearly impossible to recycle. The mixture of wood fibers, synthetic glues, plastic foils, and metal fasteners cannot be easily separated, meaning 80% of it goes directly into landfills, where it sits for decades, slowly leaching chemicals into the soil. This brings us to what economists call the Vimes boot theory of socioeconomic unfairness, named after a character in Terry Pratchett's novels. The theory states that being poor is expensive. A wealthy person can spend $2,000 on a solid hardwood sofa that will last 20 years, costing them $100 a year. A lower-income person might only be able to afford a $500 cheap sofa. But because that cheap sofa collapses in 3 years, they must replace it repeatedly. Over 20 years, they will spend over $3,000 on sofas and still sit on sagged cushions. Cheap furniture is not a bargain. It is a recurring tax on those who cannot afford to buy quality. The next time you spend your weekend turning a hex wrench, assembling a flat-pack bookcase, and feeling the warm glow of the IKEA effect, take a moment to look at the joints. Enjoy the clean lines and the fresh smell while they last. Because under the printed paper grain and the chemical foam, the physics of gravity and the chemistry of the glue are already counting down the months, and the cardboard core is waiting for its first impact. If you want to understand more about the hidden systems of daily life, subscribe, because next time we'll explore why public spaces are quietly removing places to sit, and the rise of hostile design in our cities.